Um, so I watched the movie. Very cool, very avant-garde.
Yes.
Um, so I guess, kind of what drew you to the role of Sissy St. Clair?
I mean, really, Amanda Kramer is what initially drew me to the role. She sent me an email asking me if I was interested in doing something that was sort of like a one-woman kind of disco variety live television special. And of course, the idea was very, very intriguing to me. Um, but also of course, the idea of getting to do anything that's like that much of a huge task is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
But particularly the fact that it's Amanda Kramer, I just love her work so much. And I think she's a real visionary, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So the idea of getting to work with her and also, of course, to tackle this role that I think kind of for any female actor would be exciting. Like I think it taps into so many elements of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a performer, what it is to be, a person with a female body who's in the performing arts. So it was sort of everything about the film was attractive to me, and particularly getting to work with Amanda.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing role. You sing and you dance and you do these monologues, and it's just like incredible. I guess when I was watching it, I wasn't quite expecting it to really truly be like a one woman show almost. It's like that must have been quite a process to prepare for that role between everything. Can you talk about that prepping for that process? Because I mean, you do it all in an hour and a half. It's amazing.
Thank you. Well, now, of course, I'm remembering like plays that I did at Nightingale that I'm sure we were in together. I mean,
Yeah. I know we get the recorder thing. I remember we did this thing with recorders, and I was like, these our poor parents listening to us like do the little
butcher
thing.
every song. I know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yes. I was thinking about Miss Penny recently. I mean, we could go deep on all kinds of
Yeah.
things. Um, yeah, the preparation was, of course, daunting at first. Also because like I love to sing, I love to dance, but that has never been my bread and butter. Like I grew up dancing, of course, I grew up singing, but when I watch people on Broadway belting their hearts out, I'm like, wow, that feels very intimidating for me.
Yeah.
So I certainly approached the singing very seriously. I was working with a singing teacher, this amazing woman, Melody Racine, for like a year before we started. And not just working on the music, of course, we didn't get the music till like a couple months before, but just working on my voice so that when it came time to record, I wasn't like totally freaked out. And
Yeah.
then the dance, this wonderful choreographer, Genevieve Carson, we basically started working 2 weeks before the shoot. And she just choreographed all the dances and I learned them. And like, because luckily I've learned choreography before, so it wasn't totally like, oh my God, what am I doing? But yeah, so that was the dancing and singing portion was sort of its own version of preparation. And then of course, the rest of it was thinking about who this character was and like really just trying to
Mm.
build her so that she felt like a real person who could exist in that time
Yeah.
in that television special. So I read a lot of like women's memoirs of sort of that time or performers' memoirs. I watched a lot of these specials. And then at a certain point, I was like, okay, I kind of have to throw all of that out now and really work from the ground up of just like, who is this person? Where is she coming from? What does she want? What is her life?
Yeah.
Yeah, filling in all those details.
And when you did that process, I mean, there are some parallels to your mom, and her stand up. Did you watch some of her? I'm not sure. She must have done similar shows. Did you watch some of those to prep for the role at all, or or
I
whose
didn't. I mean,
memoirs did you read? If you
actually one that I spent a lot of time with was Judy Garland because I think
Okay.
she was a very, very different character, of course, from Sissy St. Clair, but I think really embodied a lot of that tragedy of wanting something so badly that in some way it breaks you. And of course, Judy Garland's talent is so mammoth and like it's a whole other thing. But I think Her fragility, I think, was very useful. Like thinking about her fragility was very useful for thinking about Sissy, because I think there's a similar sort of transparency to both characters of being there in the moment as the audience is watching you actually maybe lose your grip on reality, or sort of experiencing reality in a whole different way from what the audience is experiencing. As far as my mom, it was really important to me when I got the script and when I knew that it was singing and dancing, that Sissy feel like a very different person from my mom. I obviously look very alike. My mom and I, that is, and Sissy.
Yeah.
But my mom and I look very alike. So I really didn't want this to become that like I was doing something that was like an imitation or a send up or anything like that. So that was kind of why I worked with that fragility, with the real lack of confidence, I think, of Sissy. Whereas I think my mom shows it's a lot more bravado. And I thought Sissy was really not like that. So I didn't use her so much as an inspiration, even though of course she is in my blood and DNA and everything I do. But yeah.
You know, when I was watching the movie, I don't know if you've ever seen the Scorsese film, The King of Comedy. Have you
Oh my
seen
God.
it?
Fuck, I watched it like 6 months ago or something and I had to like turn it off. I was so upset. It was like so disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very good.
It's very good. And there's I don't know if you made it to the end, but there's this scene in the end where, Robert De Niro it's like he's doing his own show at the end, but you don't know if it's in his head or if it's real. And I felt like that was very similar because in a way, when you're watching it, yeah, okay, in the beginning, it's like, oh, okay, like, it seems like it could be, a real show, but then you see Sissy kind of slowly lose her grasp on reality. And I guess I was wondering, what do you think? Do you think that it was real, or do you think it was in her head? Or do you think of a combo of both?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring up King of Comedy, because how I felt watching that film was actually really how I was hoping people would feel watching Give Me Pity, in that very, like, you feel sort of really off kilter. You think you're watching one thing when it starts, and then it evolves or devolves into this whole other thing, and you're left sort of going, what the fuck was that? I don't know, but I'm feeling a lot. But I think for me, as an actor, I felt like it wouldn't be useful for me to think that it was not really happening. Like as an actor, I think I had to really feel that this was actually happening to my character. But I love that it's open for the audience, that it's left open-ended, because I think it's so open to interpretation. So for me, Sophie, I'm like, yes, it happened, but if I were watching it as an audience member, I would probably be like, no, the end is totally a fever dream, or that maybe the whole thing is a fever dream. I mean, I've heard so many different interpretations of what happened, it's very fun to hear how the audience has actually sort of interpreted the whole thing.
Yeah. Um, what do you think the takeaway for audiences would be from this film? Like, what do you hope the takeaway is when people watch this movie?
Too much desire for fame is destructive, for sure. That like love from an audience is not the same as real love from real human beings in your life. And I think that's such an interesting thing of like the way that performers can absolutely affect an audience, and that can be a very, very real connection and dynamic, but that connection and dynamic is never going to fill that real gaping hole of need that we all have, which is the need to be loved in a way that is unconditional. I think for Sissy, it's very clear that the love is so conditional, that she like really needs this love from the audience, but that if she's not performing correctly, or she's not performing the role that she's supposed to be playing, that they won't love her. And so that's like a very big part of the tension for her, is this, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I perfect enough? As Sissy, quote unquote. So yeah, I think the fame thing to me is very interesting also, because of course with social media, everybody is having their 15 minutes of fame. It's so much more accessible to people. And therefore, I think it's also much more sought after by kind of everyone. You know, it used to be X number of people move to Hollywood and they become actors, but now it's everybody has a platform. And so I just think not just the fickleness of fame, but really how insidious it can be and the striving for it can be.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely shows that film goes through a wave of showing the good parts of fame and then the bad parts of fame almost, you know, where okay, the good parts are, you know, you got to go and you got to perform and you got to be on stage, but at what cost almost. Um who do you think Sissy was? I mean, Sissy does a whole like I guess background on her character when she came to Hollywood, but who do you think she was before the filming of this special?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, of course, I do a ton of like I said, filling in the details of her life, and then want the audience to absolutely interpret whatever they want. But I think there's a strand of like maybe she was a child actor, she's been in this business for a really long time. She's kind of been a little B-listy. Like I don't think she is really A-listy.
Hmm.
I had an idea that maybe somebody actually dropped out of this slot like very recently and that she got asked to fill in. And so the excitement of like being seen as the A-lister that she feels that she is has really taken over her. But then the pressure also to put together a show that is worthy of millions of eyeballs on a Saturday
Yeah.
night. Yeah, so and I think there's a lot of stuff about pregnancy and motherhood and all kinds of things swirling around there. But I definitely think she's like kind of B-list LA actor who is wanting to make it to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I guess how did filming come about? I read somewhere that you filmed it in 5 days. Did I read that correctly?
You read it correctly.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah.
And where did
Yeah.
so you filmed it in LA or New York or
Filmed in LA, yeah, at Max Sennett Studios, which is an old soundstage in Silver Lake, so on the east side. And oh God, it was so special. I mean, in reality, thank God it was only 5 days because it was very, very taxing, as you can imagine.
yeah.
Um, but it was like shooting a live show, which was so much fun because
Yeah.
Amanda set up 3 cameras, so she was capturing all of the angles that she was going to need for the edit. So it was sort of like a live
Okay.
would actually be shot. So I didn't end up actually having to do every scene basically more than once or twice. I think one number maybe we did 3 times, but other than that, we were only doing everything 1 time or 2 times.
Oh my
So it
gosh.
was really special in that way. It was kind of like, I prepped for this, we're here, we do it. Okay, done with that one. Okay, like on to the, you know, hair and makeup for the next version and for the next number and costume and all of that. So it wasn't frenetic because it felt correctly paced. But yeah, our days were full, not overly full, but it was really exciting to shoot it in that kind of one and done style because it
Yeah.
added an extra element of like excitement in the air of, oh my God, like let's hope we get it all right because we don't have, you know, we're not going to do this 5 times. So
Yeah.
yes.
That's incredible. I mean, that is incredible that you filmed that in 5 days. I was like, this can't be right. Like,
I
you know,
know, I
usually it's
know.
like a month-long shooting schedule, and I'm just like, geez, you know, 5 days. So that is super impressive. Um, and I guess, you know, you've been acting for a long time since I know since at least third grade.
Exactly.
Um, and you know, I've seen you, you know, in your roles in Equity, in American Crime Story, and so this really seems very much. I guess would you consider this like, you know, a step forward to more leading roles? Because you know, was this kind of your big step forward then? Or, you know, what I guess how did you see this in your array of acting? I know I'm asking it very awkwardly, but
No, I know what you mean. Don't worry. I get you. I mean, it's funny that I refer to her as a B-list actress because I'm like, I'm certainly not saying that I'm an A-list actress by any stretch of the imagination. But I think, you know, I think with every job that I do, every job feels like, oh, this is going to be the thing that suddenly like I'm working all the time and I have to turn down jobs because everyone's knocking on my door. And that's actually just not the nature of being an actor for most people. So I think for myself, I know that that is just not how it goes. And so this was such a special job for me and such a special character to get to play. And I love how challenging it was. And like, I really, knock on wood, hope for so many more challenging roles in the future and to be getting to do these huge roles. But sometimes that's just not what's on the table. So I'm very much an actor who's like really happy just to work whatever it is. So as much as I hope that it's like more character-y stuff with longer character arcs, if it's not, so be it. So trying to like keep that sort of zen attitude about the whole thing because you just never know what's gonna come. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a great addition. I mean, I was just so blown away by the performance that you put on in the movie. It was just incredible.
Thank you.
What are you hoping? What are your next upcoming roles, or what would you hope to do next?
Well, the strike just ended
Yes.
last night at midnight. So finally, I think I'm allowed to like dream again of what the future could hold. I'm desperate to work with Amanda again. I'm really hopeful that we'll get to do that at some point. But I think, you know, the thing that I loved about this so much was the chance to create a very full character who felt very separate from me. So anything that's charactery, anything that like requires a big transformation is like what I'm definitely hoping for. And just getting to spend more time working. I love acting so much. So really whatever it is, I'm hoping I'll be happy and will work my ass off, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. You know, I just also wanted to say that with the King of Comedy, Sissy also reminded me just a little bit of the Sandra Bernhard character in the film, where there were some similarities with the performance, and I don't know, there was like a certain kind of vibe that was very similar. And I just forgot to mention that before when we were talking about King of Comedy. I don't know if you remember Sandra Bernhardt's character in it, but there was some similarities to it where you know, I would almost imagine Sissy to kind of be from New York, you know, or you know, where you know, she's straight and she's straightforward, and you know, she's not afraid to be a little sexy, and she's not afraid to put on a show, and the Sandra Bernhard character kind of reminded me of that. What was
I was just going to say that she actually has a special that was like a big point of reference for Amanda. So I think you picked up on that correctly.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, there was some similarities there. What was the most challenging part in the Sissy St. Clair role for you to do? Even if that was just the choreography, or it could be anything.
Oh God, what was the most challenging? Weirdly, I actually found the psychic scene very hard.
Really?
Because I think there was always this question for me of like, how much is this actually going according to plan and how much is it not? And so like really trying to thread that needle appropriately so that the audience could read when it was going off the rails and when it was going as planned. So that I actually thought was a challenge, which is funny because I feel like compared to some of the other scenes, which are much crazier. And then I think the getting over singing. So even though the three of the songs, Grand Old Flag, Making It, and Give Me Pity, were all pre-recorded. And then as in I pre-recorded them and then I lip-synced them in the movie. And even though I really wanted to do live because I felt like that's sort of the most personal song for her, or yeah, it is the most personal song for her, I think. And so I wanted to do that one live. So working myself up to singing it live was definitely a challenge. The night before, I sort of broke out in a cold sweat and was like, what the fuck am I thinking? Like, I could have just
Yeah.
pre-recorded it and like that would be it, you know, and I would just get to act on top of it. But I'm really, really glad that I did it live, just because it was, I think then it felt much more kind of raw and vulnerable. And as I felt as scared as I think Sissy feels. So that
Mm.
was, yeah, so I would say those two things, and it felt definitely challenging for sure.
And what was the best part? What did you enjoy the most?
Oh my God. I think the first moment, so the first thing that we shot was making it. And I
Okay.
think like putting on that outfit and our amazing hair and makeup, Tanya and Aaron, doing out the hair like that. And the makeup was so glam, and like
Yeah.
walking out in sequins and seeing backup dancers and like hearing that track come on was like, oh my God, we're doing this. And you could feel it's so, I mean, that's why I also love live theater, is like when the air in the room changes, it felt very much like that. It was like we started doing this and you could feel kind of even the people behind the camera being like, oh wait, like sitting up a little bit straighter. And it was just a really, yeah, exciting, like the air was kind of vibrating. So that was a very special moment for sure.
The hair and the makeup and the costuming, I mean, the people behind that, they did a really good job, because each look is so individual and so different. And I just thought the people who did that just did a great job with all of that. I just wanted to add that, because I just thought I was to come up with all those looks and all that, all the uniqueness there, I just thought was incredible. Um, I would say, uh, what can we see you in next after
Let's
this?
see. I just shot 2 indies, so we will see what happens with those. Knock on wood, they go somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm in this season of American Horror Story. I play Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, so that was very fun. I think I'm in episode 4, but I'm like covered in blood. It was a very joyful thing to get to do, because it's like so epic, over the top. What else do I have coming up? Oh, I have a movie called Love Reconsidered that's coming out in February, which is so different from Give Me Pity, I can't even tell you. It's a rom-com set in the Hamptons, but it's like a rom-com where it's not about romance, it's about finding yourself.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and I think that's it for now, but oh, after the strike is done, please let me work again soon. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's all for my questions. So thank you so much for taking the time uh to chat with me. We can chat more about